Ready when you are, Amy.
Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today in our discussion about ways to grow our green lives. We're so excited to have two of the industry's experts who are leading the way in sustainability and raising the green bar. Gabe Brown is the author of Living with a Green Heart. Here's her book about how to keep your body, home, and planet healthy. And Andy Bayer is the CEO of As You Sow, which is the nation's leading nonprofit practitioner of shareholder advocacy and engagement. He and Andy are two really special people that we've gotten to know this year, and we're so excited to have them share their experiences, expertise, passion, and wisdom with us today. We will be recording this session, so please put yourself on mute. This will be a panel discussion format. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat section and we'll cover those at the end. And I'm going to be asking questions with three of our other advisors, Rita, Brian, and Anna. So let's get started. First question is for both of you. Let's start with you, Gay. The question is, tell us about yourself and the work that you do and what drove you towards this work.
Thank you, Amy. I'm delighted to be here with everyone today. So I grew up in Kentucky and I spent a lot of time in nature growing up. I was playing outdoors, as a kid after school. I was in the Girl Scouts and I went canoeing in Canada for most of my childhood. But it wasn't until my oldest son was diagnosed with auditory processing problems in second grade, which in the old days was 1996 because he's 32 now. And they didn't know what auditory processing was. They didn't know how he got it. So I really took a deep dive into chemicals, how they affect our bodies, how they affect our neurosystems. And then from there, ran a company called Greenopia, which is a database of green businesses so people could stay healthy in their community, which led me into eventually writing a book about why we should care about what's in our community and what's in the food and water that we eat. So, and today I'm talking to you from the ASBC conference. I don't have a lovely background like you guys do. So I'm delighted to be here.
Excellent. And same question for you, Andy. Tell us about yourself and the work that you do and what drove you towards this work.
Also, thank you for the invitation to speak today. So, I'm the CEO of As You Sow. We're a 501c3. We're a nonprofit based in Berkeley, and what we do, I'm talking about As You Sow. It's about me. I actually come to this from a background in business, actually, and also I was a filmmaker. I was actually trained as a filmmaker, but I always was working on environmental issues, always either on a political basis, organizing, or when I was living in a small town and they wanted to build a waste dump right at the mouth of this valley called Ojai, California, and ended up organizing the whole town and fighting off this giant corporation, Waste Management, over a course of 5 years. So I learned about the power of corporations and also the power of people. And so when I took the job as CEO of As You Sow, that's what we do. We talk directly to the largest corporations in the world. And we talk to them in business terms about how they can become better businesses by actually adopting environmental, social, and governance practices. So I'll get into more detail about that later.
Great. Next question is again for both of you. We'll start, Gay, with you again. The world seems to be moving rapidly in the direction of green living. How do you see things progressing into the future?
Well, I think green living has been a term that's been around for a long time, but post-COVID, I think people are more interested than ever because they realize that their health is the basis of their future. So in my space, environmental health, which is what my real focus is I'm just so excited at this conference I'm attending right now. I think everyone has their hair on fire because everyone's just like, how can we do this faster? How can we do this better? And one thing I'm hearing a lot is about restorative things. You know, what is restorative? So I think there's a lot of words we use about restorative, regenerative, you know, impact investing, but I think we're getting into some super neat areas about not only impacting the world, but the people that are investing, but also the world itself and the water quality. So I'm excited about how granular we're getting about our concern for the planet.
Andy, same question for you. Do you want me to repeat it?
No, that's okay. So from where I sit, because we engage many, many companies. So this year we had engagement with 188 companies, and these are majors. This is Exxon and Chevron and McDonald's and Unilever and Amazon. So we represent shareholders, and shareholders have legal standing to be able to talk to companies about things that are material meaning that it has a financial implication. So what we do is we do a lot of research. So for instance, we just completed a scorecard on the Russell 1000, 1,000 companies on racial justice. We looked at 26 key performance indicators and 31 on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We looked at 50 companies, 35 key performance indicators on ocean plastics, and one on pesticides. And so I'm going to frame this in this story around pesticides. So we started talking to Kellogg about the fact that they sprayed all their wheat, oats, and beans with a chemical called glyphosate. It's also known as Roundup. It's a known carcinogen. And in the United States, basically all of our food is sprayed with this desiccant right before they harvest it. So it gets right into the product and causes a lot of harm. It's actually a public health crisis. So we went and talked to Kellogg and we said, look, we think it's bad business to be poisoning your customers. Like fundamentally, we think that Kellogg food should be safe to eat. And we made this case to them that it would be better business for them. They could become a leader by doing this. They decided to do it. They signed a no glyphosate pledge through their entire supply chain. So that's hundreds and hundreds of farmers who are providing them with all of the, all the crops and all the commodities. What happened over the next 2 years is that people started to realize, customers started to realize Kellogg food is safer. They started to get more market share. Investors started to see this. They started to put more money there. Capital started to flow. 2 years later, we just finished a second report card. Again, in 2019, only Kellogg was working on this. In 2019, of the 24 companies we wrote about, fully half of them, 12 of them, were working on some form of regenerative ag or pesticide reduction, or literally no more glyphosate. So the market had really created this flow toward a regenerative economy based on justice and sustainability. And what I see is that companies that do that adopt this regenerative economy and say no more to the extractive economy, they're the ones who are going to be getting the capital, who are going to be getting the investment, who are going to be getting the customers, and will succeed.
Brian, I believe you have the next question.
Yes, thank you guys. My question's for Gay. It's kind of a two-part question. So the first part is, how can we lead a greener life? Basically, with New Year's right around the corner, are there any recommendations for New Year's resolutions that we might think about? And secondly, how can I personally be healthier and leave the planet a better place than when I found it?
Well, this is a long conversation, Brian, but I'm gonna try to. So I would encourage you to read my book, but actually, really, there's a couple of things you can do that I'm going to start with the most important thing. It's not very sexy, but everyone here needs to get their heavy metals tested. I know that John and Amy or someone sent out the links about heavy metals, but no matter how much organic lettuce you eat and how clean your water is, those are the things. If you have a system that's already got issues in it, and some of the stuff that Andy's is talking about really trickles down into your bloodstream, which is, you would be surprised at what the pesticide level is in all of your blood. So please test your pesticide level and your heavy metal. That should be number one on your New Year's resolution list. And hopefully you're eating a lot of Kellogg, which is take glyphosate out. The second thing I would just say, and this is, again, you've heard it before, but it's really important. really just avoid plastic whenever possible. It is one of those things that is just not, we can live around it. So if you've got plastic in your house, a Tupperware container, that's okay. But just, those single use bottles are just not helpful. And we need to really nick that in the bud. And the other thing is obviously carbon. Carbon is a big issue. So anything you could do to mitigate your transportation issues. Can you not get in the car today? Do you have to go to the market? Can you wait till tomorrow? Can you find an alternate transportation? And then there's other things that you could do, but I would say the 3 top things to do is take care of yourself. Know what your health is number 1 and paramount. Number 2 is to look for those toxic offenders out there like plastic. And then 3 is also just to really limit your transportation whenever possible. Anyway, I'm going to go on later, but those are the top 3 things I would just say.
Thank you.
And I'm going to answer it from a financial standpoint, which is know what you own. Make sure that your investments are aligned with your values. So many people are invested in mutual funds. And As You Sow has a whole system. Maybe I'm going to share a screen if that's okay, just for a moment and sort of show you, because most people are in a 401k plan or they're in some kind of mutual fund and they don't realize what's inside of it. And so we created, this is the As You Sow website. I think everybody can see that. Is that, you're all seeing it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. So by the way, we were named by Kiplinger as the #1 ESG tool for sustainable investors. This tool I'm about to show you. So it's right here. It's called Investor Values. And basically you click on fossil free funds or there's 7 different ways to get into it. And you could type any fund you like into it. Oops, as long as you spell them right. And what we do is we show you what's inside. So a lot of people, they're in a Vanguard target date fund in their 401k plan. They don't realize that they're profiting from all of these oil companies and all these coal companies and all these fossil fired utilities. It's really hidden from view. And we also look at the same mutual fund basket of stocks through the lens of deforestation. So now we're looking at companies that are burning down the Indonesian Amazon rainforest for palm oil, paper pulp, rubber timber, cattle, soy, the banks who fund all this destruction, like JP Morgan, and all of the consumer brands. So, for instance, Pepsi, they use palm oil to cook their potato chips. We also look at a lot of other things, like we look at private prisons. If you care about racial justice, you might not want to own private prisons, or military weapons, assault weapons, gender equality. So we look at a lot of different things that are inside these funds. So know what you own, understand what your values are, and then work to align it. And often you'll find in a 401k plan, there are sustainable funds you could move into, and also how you bank. So like I mentioned, JP Morgan, they fund most destruction. They're the #1 funders of extraction. And so it's something you might want to avoid in terms of where your credit card is, where your bank. So make sure you have a lot of power as an investor, as a consumer, every time you buy a product, you're sending a message. So understand that power and then use it intentionally.
Thank you so much.
Anna, I think you had a follow-up question for Andy.
I do. Andy, how can we make more informed decisions about what products and companies we give our dollars to? Give us a little.
I'm going to let Gay talk about on the consumer side, like what companies, so we do a lot of scorecards. I mentioned that we do have a racial justice scorecard. We rate and rank the entire Russell 1000. I'm going to share a screen again, just so you can see some of the things that we build. So under reports, this is on the As You Sow website. If you're interested in, say, plastics, you click on our report card, and there's a data visualization tool. So we look at 35 key performance indicators for each company of 50 companies. So for instance, well, we've been talking about Kellogg. Let's look at Kellogg. And what you're going to see is how they do on packaging design, reusable packaging. And each one of these is called a KPI, a key performance indicator, that they get a yes or a no. Recycled content. So you can get into incredible detail, and we do. But ultimately, what you're going to look at is, how does Kellogg compare? And this is on plastics. This is not on pesticides. How does it compare to, I don't know, Smuckers or let's see who else is up here. General Mills. Let's just look at those. So you can actually sit them across each other and you can see who's exceeding who. In this case, Kellogg is beating these other companies on all of the 6 pillars. So we have these kind of scorecards set up for plastics, for pesticides, for racial justice, for CEO pay, for conflict minerals, all kinds of different issue areas that are available and free on our website. So you can actually start to understand the companies you want to have loyalty to and the companies you want to invest in. Okay, you can talk about from the customer side, consumer side.
Thanks.
I'm good.
I just said thanks.
Rita had a question.
Oh, okay, sure. Okay, everyone who's on the call today is going to be receiving a copy of your book, Living with a Green Heart. Amy shared that at the beginning of the call for us to see. There it is again. Yes.
Thank you, Amy.
So what can we expect to learn reading the book, and what can we do to implement what you're teaching us in our lives?
I'm so glad Amy's got one because I just gave my last one away. I wrote the book actually, which is just the way I live my life, which is I have to keep it simple or else I'm going to not be able to do it. So the first thing I did was what you'll get is sort of my version of how to live a healthy life, which is the first thing I do with myself is to set an intention. Okay, I'm going to try to live a healthier life, but that sort of percolates down into everything I do. The book is designed sort of room by room in your house, chapter by chapter, of things you need. So for example, we start with the home because 70% of the toxins that we're all exposed to are in our home. And the crazy thing is they're lurking in places you never even think. If you have a leaky air duct and you live in an older home, there may be fiberglasses leaking into your air, which can go into your lungs. I've been a long-term asthmatic, so air quality is super important to me. You may live in an apartment building where they spray around the edges of your building with toxic things. Again, that's going to seep into under your doors. Look at your bed. Beds can actually trap in your body moisture when you sleep at night, because we all sweat a little bit at night. That sweat can grow bacteria, which means you can, every night in that bed, you can breathe it back in, which is super unhealthy. So organic beds have a way of wicking away some of that, most of all that bacteria has a natural repelling system. So that and other things like your water and things in your home in terms of all of your cleaning products, which everyone here I'm sure uses green products. But as you go through life, you can make changes really on a small, one day at a time basis. So even though it feels like it's overwhelming, you could say this week, I'm just going to do eggs. And that's my intention. I'm going to look just at changing my egg products, or I'm going to look at just changing. Next week, I'm going to try to buy spinach without plastic around it. So I think it's a little bit of, it's not, I wouldn't say game, but it's a little bit of something you could do for yourself that makes you believe that you're helping yourself and the planet. So I would just say that the book guides you through the things you need on an everyday basis. And I wish I had known Andy when I wrote the book, because I would put him in it. But one of the most important things you can do is, and what I'm developing now is consumer sustainable shopping advocacy, because so many people can afford to invest in the stock market, but yet every time they put their card down or pay for something, they're either helping or hurting the environment. So I'm in the process of rebuilding my database of local businesses, bakeries, dry cleaners, things that we do on a regular basis, and directing people to those things, because consumer advocacy is really much as a very large area that people can get more involved in and really move the needle. So I would say shareholder advocacy is important, consumer advocacy is important. And then in the book, I just go chapter by chapter and what you might need to live an everyday life.
Okay. Thank you. And following for Andy, thanks for the example you gave us in the beginning about Kellogg, and that really tells a lot. Can you share some other examples of how As You Sow has moved corporations to change
Sure.
for good?
Sure. So Let me give you an example of on ocean plastics. So we talked to a company called Yum Brands. Yum Brands owns Taco Bell, Long John Silver's, Pizza Hut. It's a whole bunch of fast food, KFC, I believe. And they use a lot of styrofoam. And so we had a conversation with them around now. Styrofoam is made from oil and gas. So it's creating demand for extraction, which is also putting methane in the air. So there's the whole supply chain of plastics from the wellhead where the gas and the oil are mined, all the way through the pipelines, there's leakage, all the way through the petrochemical plants. So we said, well, we got to, and also then of course the destruction in the ocean. And styrofoam breaks down to tiny bits, and fish and marine life think that it's food and they eat it, they ingest it, they get sick. And it's also, we then eat them and we get sick. So we talked to Yum about this. They were less interested than we liked. So we filed a shareholder resolution. We scaled it up and we associated their brand with the destruction of the ocean ecosystem. So people who were going for a taco were suddenly thinking, oh, this is a company that is destroying the ocean ecosystem. It took a year or two for Yum to realize this was not good for their brand. They said, okay, we also work with them on what they're going to do. How do they transition to recycled cardboard in their cups? We showed them the business model for it. They realized this is better for our business. So they signed a no styrofoam pledge in 6,700 stores globally. Simultaneously, we got Dunkin' Donuts to do the same thing, and we got McDonald's. So all told, about 3 billion styrofoam cups will not be produced starting last year, this year, forever, which is a lot of oil and gas won't have demand, which means the price will go down. It's like the whole structure, the whole life cycle. And so that's one example. That's like the power of shareholders to actually help this company become better. Another example is around antibiotics in poultry. So we went and talked to the poultry manufacturers. Now, when you feed poultry antibiotics in every meal, what happens is the bacteria become resistant. So you get what are called superbugs. And we went and talked to Tyson and Sanderson and Purdue, the big poultry manufacturers. And then they just said, take a hike. So we did. We hiked down, talked to their customers, McDonald's and all the big food companies. They were less interested. So we went and talked to a bunch of moms and dads who had been blogging about that they didn't want their kids to eat McNuggets because of superbugs. So we helped them amplify their message. We went back upstream to McDonald's and said, look, we have a McNugget crisis here. We have a market share crisis here. And they agreed with it. They signed a no antibiotics pledge. We took that to Wendy's.
Next Thursday.
I think someone's talking. I think Rachel's talking.
Hey guys, could you mute yourself if you're not speaking, please? Thanks.
So after McDonald's, we got Wendy's, KFC, Burger King. We took that upstream, got all of the poultry manufacturers, said we won't have a business. So the whole sector shifted it took a couple of years of shareholder pressure in a strategic way using market forces. So and those are just two examples, but there are many, many.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead, Rita.
No, it's really kind of, as we're listening to this, it seems that there's a lot we can do both as on the consumer side and as shareholders too, right? As investors. So that's something you're both touching on. It's very helpful for us.
We thought we would
Yeah.
have you guys start answering some of the questions in the chat section. It looks like the first question is about Tesla. Either of you want to jump in and answer that Tesla question?
Yeah, so Tesla's using, a lot of cobalt is actually one of the bigger problems around electric batteries, but also, the question of, cars are made, of metal, and so there's mining involved. So yes, Tesla cars have a lithium, they have an environmental impact, but all cars do. Teslas are, let's just say equivalent, just so, but the benefit of the Tesla, the benefit of an electric vehicle, of reducing demand for fossil fuels is far outweighs that. And as the whole world shifts over to EVs, because now Ford, GM, Volvo, there aren't going to be electric. I mean, internal combustion engines are just going the way of all things. We won't. They'll just be a distant memory soon. And so, as the world converts over into electrifying not only cars but everything, as we electrify all of our gas stoves and our gas heaters, once we get the electrification, we can get all this natural gas out of our lives. And think about natural gas. It's not only bad at the wellhead where it's being mined, where it's being drilled, but there are pipelines that are leaking. And we did a study of these. So these pipelines go into compressors, they go into these drying facilities, and then they come out. When they go into the cities, the infrastructure is so old. There's a study done in Boston. The amount of leakage in that last mile from the main to your house was just massive amounts of methane. Just it's unbelievable. And methane is a much more intense greenhouse gas than carbon, than CO2. So we need to get completely electrified, and then that electricity needs to be generated by renewables. And there's been studies shown that just with offshore wind, and solar, we can easily electrify certainly the entire United States, but the entire planet. There is more than enough sun and wind, and it's just a matter of the government's getting rid of the subsidies for all this oil and gas, and the shift. The utilities, they sell electrons. They don't care if they were generated less expensively through renewables or more expensively through oil and gas. So this is a transition that is happening. It's happening fast because the price point of the electric vehicles and the batteries are dropping, and so again, market forces will sort this out.
I would just like to, in support of what Andy's saying, I think a lot of things and in the green space, we are in the transitional phase. So don't beat yourself up. I mean, electric car is the best thing you could do if you're driving a car. So it's shades of gray, as I like to say.
I mean, I haven't been to a gas station in 7 years now, and it's a pleasure. I mean, I have solar on my roof. I charge my car with it, and it's like a free car. I spend less on my lease than I used to spend on gasoline. So it's just the economics makes such good sense.
Excellent. Gay, do you want to answer the question about different areas of the country?
Yeah. I can't remember who put it in the chat, but someone asked about water and air in different parts of the country. And all I can say is environmental health is directly related to where you're living. I had very heavy levels of mercury in my system, probably that started when I was a kid from coal dust and the coal ash that settled into the water of Kentucky where I was growing up. I ate a lot of tuna fish when I was in the 80s, which is the big sushi craze. And I am one of those people that doesn't process toxins. So again, knowing your body is the most important thing. If there's one thing you remember after talking to me today, it's know your body and how you process your toxins, because it really makes a huge difference to your long-term health. But every part of the country has different environmental health hazards. So hopefully you're not living next to a pig farm or an oil well, but it just in the regular neighborhoods. So there are great water resources that you could use to test your water. I'm involved with Water Keepers Alliance, which there's a water keeper in almost every part of the United States. So I would be happy to find the one in Pittsburgh was it Mike? Was you the one who asked me the question? No, yeah, exactly. So I can line you up with the Pittsburgh water keeper. And also in the air quality, there's some new devices out. You could test your own air quality. Again, indoor air quality is important. So if you can't do anything about your outdoor air quality, please get an air purifier. The best kind to get is a HEPA filter. They're all different prices. You can buy them at Costco, Walmart, anywhere. But put that in your bedroom or the bedroom of your children. It's really the best defense that you can do. You can't maybe control the outdoor air, but you can control what's in your house.
I have a question for Mike. Are you actually Captain America?
That's a long story, but as a member of Emeritus and Amy's broker-dealer, right, I'm Captain Emeritus. And yes, Amy signed my shield and we're excited to be on the call. Thanks for asking.
The next question is from, I think Andy would be great for you to answer. It's from
Usually they
Carrie, and it does, like, we've been doing socially responsible investing for years, like almost 30 years, and it keeps getting better and better, and the research gets better and better, but we're never perfect. And she's bringing up a really good example of, we thought we found a good investment and then we found problems in it, right? So maybe you can talk us through, maybe it's like Tesla, right? It's not perfect, but it's better than, gasoline.
There is no perfect. And if you let perfect be and get in the way of the good enough, then you will do nothing and we'll stay where we are. So yeah, Tesla's a good example. Tesla also, we've been filing shareholder resolutions with them because about water. We want to see better water disclosures at Tesla. They make, actually, their disclosures are worse than just about any other car company. And their rationale as well were Tesla. And so we said, that's not good enough. So just in terms of disclosure. In terms of some of those mutual funds, you can look at them and you just have to decide. There are some funds that get straight A's or B and above. There's also a lot of misleading information. So we literally just yesterday finished a study with a team at UCSD. We realized that of the 3,000 mutual funds we look at every month, 88 of them had ESG in their name. They're literally called ESG. And of 88, 51, more than half, got a D or an F on our scorecard. So we had this team of data scientists. They tore apart all of these prospectuses and they used natural language processing and all these kind of just wizardry to examine every word associations, phrases, what they call wiggle words. Anyway, they showed me the data and did this final presentation last night, which we're taking to the SEC, by the way, in the first of the year or the first week of the year. Funds that got an A and funds that got an F were undifferentiated. Their conclusion was you cannot judge an A from an F by virtue of its prospectus or its name. Like that was now that's pretty serious. And the SEC has been talking about naming, but now we actually have a data set that we're going to share with them because we think that they need to actually enforce the language around how investments are described, because so much is misleading. BlackRock came out with LCTU, the Low Carbon Transition Fund. 1.25 billion was invested the first day. That's a record because people thought they were avoiding climate risk, but the fund has Exxon and Chevron and all of the pipeline companies and oil field services and Duke and Southern, all the coal-fired utilities. So it's just very difficult right now. We're hopefully going to get through this period, get some definitions, get a glossary, and really start to understand the what does ESG mean. The other piece is that the company's disclosure is not good. We filed a resolution at Exxon and Chevron last year saying that their audit committees of their boards were in breach because they accepted the audit even though the audit did not have the greenhouse gas emissions, because both companies said greenhouse gas emissions are material, meaning financial, therefore they should be in the audit. They disclosed their emissions that were completely off, they're completely misleading. And so what we were saying is you need to audit anything that's material. It needs to be in the audit. And once it's in the audit and a company puts it there and it's approved, then if it's inaccurate, then it's a misstatement and you can litigate around it. So we're trying to get companies to disclose more accurately, to disclose more, just to go deeper on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're asking every company to disclose recruitment, retention, and promotion data cut by gender, race, and ethnicity, so we can see promotion gaps. We can actually see stuff. So right now we're pretty much running blind. We're in this world and we're starting to see a few rays of light, and that's one of As You Sow's missions, is to just shine a light, have total financial transparency. Every pension fund, I'm sorry, I'm going a little long on this one, but every pension fund in the world, there's only two, and that I know of in the world, that actually disclose where they're invested. And there is an uprising happening in Europe of pensioners who are saying, I do not want you to be investing for my future in companies that are destroying my future. So there's a movement happening, and we're we're in the middle of it. We're going to get this done.
Yeah, and you mentioned something interesting. Just because it says ESG doesn't, it's like marketing, right? Food products that say gluten-free, well, they always were gluten-free, but now they just put it on the label, right? So
That's different. That's like saying, okay, this is actually a fund that doesn't have any fossil fuels. It's now saying it. No, these are actually funds that are full of gluten, and now
and
they're
they're just,
saying, yeah, that it's, you got funds that are just full of
yeah.
weapons and deforestation and prisons and
Mm.
climate change, but they're calling them, the ESG Prime Fund, and
Mhm.
they define ESG as less than 20% coal.
Oh,
So if you don't
wow.
read the fine print,
Mhm.
you don't know that, and so it's truly misleading. There's a lot of funds that have just renamed themselves in the last few years because people, it's more like the word natural,
I was just going to say, right.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, and that's the thing, is that this is why I'm focusing on the consumer group. Andy's doing an amazing job. I'm in awe of everything he does. But I'm focusing on the consumers to educate consumers, because really there's the word natural is not natural, and so I mean, we really need to drill down to look at what's deeper. There's a whole soils movement going on right now that's going to talk about soil, what the best kind of soil is. In London, they have actually a marker done by the Sustainable Food Trust that says this product was grown in soil that was not only organic but biodynamic. So, which is really the bar that's the best way to sort of farm if you talk to certain people, which does include animals, which is part of the biodynamic family. But anyway, we are in a transition phase, and the best thing we could do is realize we're all imperfect and we're dealing with imperfect things, but be curious and ask questions and be creative about the decisions you make, and don't just look at the label from the face up.
You see, we're 50 years into the world of it's totally changed in the last 2 years. So the whole Milton Friedman idea that you can do anything as long as you're making money, you can have slavery in your supply chain, abuse your employees, dump in the commons, that's all been thrown out. The Business Roundtable in the summer of 2019 said there's a new purpose of a corporation. And the World Economic Forum reiterated that with the manifesto, the fourth manifesto of business. So every company in the world has a new purpose. And that purpose is to serve all stakeholders. Take care of your employees. They're going to create a culture to attract the best and the brightest. Take care of your customers. Don't poison your customers. I mean, that's now been accepted as okay for companies. 2 years ago, it was absolutely thought, yeah, fine, poison your customers as long as you're making as much money as possible. That is totally turned upside down now. And that's at least the philosophical agreement exists. Now the implementation, we're in the implementation, about a year and a half into implementation of this whole new world order of corporate behavior.
Andy and Gabe, do you each want to kind of share anything you think we should know, something you wanted to say you've missed, or expand a little bit more on something you've already said? We'd love to hear more from both of you.
You're first, Kay.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm just really focused on environmental health, meaning your health, which I think we all, we're all so busy doing what we do every day that we don't think about our health. So I'm an advocate in 2022. I'm going to come out with sort of should you know about yourself? I just really think getting your heavy, testing your pesticides and your heavy toxins. I at one point lived in a golf course for a little while, and I actually just sold my house there because my doctor said to me, "Do you realize that your pesticide levels have gone up?" And that was so scary to me. But if you play golf or if you live in a golf course environment, they spray with chemicals. Those chemicals go into your water. So I would just, say the one thing I'd like to urge all of us to is really start 2022 with a consciousness of what you are, how you as a physical body, how healthy you are in terms of your toxins and pesticides, and where you actually live. All of these toxins and these pesticides, they erode our immune system, and our immune system has been under attack the past couple of years. So if we have pesticides and toxins, they erode our immunities. We're more susceptible to COVID and other diseases. And although it's not a simple fix, if you have pesticides or toxins, you can actually chelate it with these pills. By chelating, it acts as a binding agent. You take this pill, you eat it with, and drink it with lots of fluid, and you eat it, and it actually the binding agent is you sort of pee it out, which is sort of unattractive to say on probably camera, but it literally rinses your body of the toxins. So it shouldn't be something you're afraid of. So I say dive into your personal environmental health and know that we've been living in a very toxic environment, all of us, and we didn't have Andy. We weren't also conscious of these corporations. Were not conscious of they were making money and poisoning us. So it's we've got the chemicals in our body now. We just need to to really see what they are and get them out. And I'm anybody on this call or any of your clients, I'm very happy to make myself available to help people find out who what the best solution is for them in that area. So that would just say, and then also would just really say driving an electric car is the thing that I think is the most important thing you could do. So you do what Andy says, which is not burn up any more fossil fuels, and join an electric company. Make sure your electric company is doing a lot in renewables. So I'm just really focused on personal environmental health and things that you do every day, knowing you could do one thing a day that makes a difference.
Gay, so I'm going to ask the question that maybe some of you have, but how do I get tested? Like, where do I go?
Because this is such a big, issue for me. It's in the invitation that John sent out. There are 2 places where you can get hair analysis kits, and it's a very simple process. You literally order the hair analysis kit, you get it, and then you chop in your hair the back of the nape of your neck. I'll just explain it to you to make sure if you don't get it. I know, Mike, just you can have hair from other parts of your body. If you don't have hair, you can have a blood test. So, blood tests are easy. I mean, if you ask your doctor, everyone who lives, probably everyone on this call has a relationship with an integrated medical doctor, integrated medicine, or homeopath, or even a lot of Chinese acupuncturists will take your blood, if they'll do it and they'll send it to a lab. So, but there are 2 links in what I sent you. So
Perfect. Excellent.
And I would kind of reiterate, just become aware of, you're with, a group that is doing sustainable investing. So, that is, you've already taken a major step in terms of your own awareness. So you're already in that process. If you have other funds, like in a 401k plan at work, take a look at it. Use the tool that I showed you. I'll put the link in the chat in a minute, and talk to your 401k advisor. What you'll probably find, what we've seen in all the major companies, is most people are in a target date fund that is just filled with fossil fuels and weapons and private prisons and rainforest destruction. That is just the go-to way to invest. And it's really obsolete that this is no longer, first of all, it underperforms the ones that don't do that. If you could, in our tool, you could put a Vanguard, a BlackRock, a TIAA, CREF, 2030 target date fund sitting next to a sustainable one, and you'll see the sustainable one outperforms. So that whole idea that you're going to be trading off returns by having a more sustainable fund is just simply a myth that has been totally overturned 100 times now. So look at just be aware and use your money and your power with intention. If you own equities, vote. You have the right to vote proxies. As you saw, we brought 45 or so resolutions to annual meetings last year, and we got these amazing votes. So, after we got a 98% vote with GE, we went and talked to the company, and they said, okay, we are going to actually disclose our scope 3 emissions. That means the emissions from all the jet engines that they make, from the turbines that they make. This is a very new thing. And they're going to reduce it by 5% a year over the next 10 years. So getting that kind of vote gives us the ability as shareholders to really represent a strong community. And so, if you do, and if you find it difficult to vote, and I understand it is a cumbersome process, there is going to be some new apps that are coming out this year. We're part of one, we're working on one with Broadridge. We have a voting service, but it's for institutional. But there will be, this year and next, there will be the ability on your phone to just be able to click one button, and you'll be able to vote along with, it's called As You Vote. So we have a voting service that will vote ESG aligned on everything, on every director, on every CEO pay package, on every resolution, et cetera. So it really is about being aware of how you spend your money, how you bank, how you invest.
Great. Let's see, keep the questions coming. I probably missed a few, so I apologize.
Hey, Amy, Judith has a couple questions. We could probably combine them. Can we meet with Amy or associate to go over these categories Andy is speaking about and help Amy to understand our preferences, and then have Boom invest according to that report? And then her second question is, does Boom plan to work with Andy and As You Sow in any way?
So one of the things you should know, we don't own any shares, As You Sow does not. So we look to people who own equities. So if we're going to file with Yum, we have a network of financial advisors, and we say, you know what, we want to file a resolution with Yum. They find a client who's owned Yum for more than 3 years, has held $2,000 worth, and then they authorize As You Sow to file on their behalf. So we're right now in the process. We've already filed about 45 resolutions this year. We've got another 40 to go in the next 2 weeks. This is the big filing season, is November, December, because most of the annual meetings are May and June. So that's something that you could do in the future. We also file during the spring, depending. Companies like Microsoft and P&G, they have spring filings. So if you do own equities, that's something that we could do together.
Yeah, and As You Sow, and we have a few other groups that we work with just to do the screening, the social responsible screening, right? And we keep, like, it's a learning process and a growing process, and everyone keeps getting better and better about it. So that's, I think that was in some of the questions too.
I had one more
Can I-
thing.
Oh, yeah. No, it sounds like, Andy, it's super complicated, like from what you're sharing, because what are the companies disclosing is part of then what we can base our understanding, right? And so are they actually giving us, what are companies sort of compelled to do in terms of what they disclose about gender equity or other things like that?
So I'm not sure if your question is about what the resolution can ask for or what the disclosures are looking like. So on what a resolution can ask for is very strictly limited. You can't ask for ordinary business. You can't ask for what's called micromanagement, and you can't ask what they've already disclosed, basically. Like you can't ask for a water report. If they already have one on their website, you will get omitted by the SEC. So, but that's okay. We take care of all that. We write resolutions that get through the SEC, and we fight everyone that gets challenged, which a lot of them do. We write a brief. We have SEC attorneys. I mean, basically January, February for us is no action fighting season. We get these, and we've filed now 24 resolutions with Exxon over the last 10 years. We've had 24 no actions to fight. So some companies just file one no matter what. Other companies, you know, if they think they can win, they'll do it. In terms of what companies are disclosing, so on diversity, equity, and inclusion, a lot of companies are starting to disclose their EEO-1, their Equal Employment Opportunity form. It's a form that they make for the federal government. A year ago, there were maybe 10. Now there's over 114, but they're very limited. An EEO-1, you can't, for instance, see if there's a promotion gap for women. It's just not, the data's not there because of the way it's structured. So we're asking for more granular data because we want to see, are you paying women the same as men for the same level job, and are they getting promoted? Right now, statistically, women and men enter the workforce at the same level. By the time you're at a senior vice president, you're 82% men, 18% women. So women are not being promoted for a range of whatever the reasons are. We can't see that data well, and we want to see that more. People of color coming in often kept lowest level jobs, never promoted, but the EEO-1 won't show you that. They'll just show that they're hiring people. And so we're looking for much more granular data to be able to separate the companies who are really leading to the companies who are just getting away with what they can.
Okay, I think you had something you wanted to add.
I just wanted to add, mostly when I was speaking before about environmental toxins and the things that if we are in our environment that we either can or can't control. But the one thing we can control, and this is a lot of these reports are coming out, and there's nothing completely definitive, but it's leaning this way. It's really important to draw boundaries around your phone. I just spoke to a client recently, and she said to me she sleeps with her phone under her pillow. So it's really important to understand, even though phones haven't been around long enough to see what the EMF damage is to our bodies or our brains, we just know with the, the 30% overdose that we saw in 2021 so far to date, because of the mental health issues that, it's the crisis is going in adolescents and everyone we're in society. It's really important to understand that mental health is as important as physical health. So I just would say that's, part of what I would say, find out your toxins, but also realize what you're doing to be toxic, that whatever that behavior is related to your phone or social media. So I'm really helping people, understand the impact of social media, both mentally and emotionally.
Great. I did want to tell you guys that anyone that wants a copy of Gay's book, hopefully you can see this, we are happy to send it to you. So just email me and we will send you a copy of her book. All I need is an email saying I want a copy of the book.
Thank you, Amy.
You can see
And now that with the copy of the book, because Amy knows me and John, you've been so gracious to have me here on this, I'm open to any questions you have. Just email me, gay@gaybrown.com.
Let's see, any other questions? Last comments, thoughts? You're helping with me with my New Year's resolutions, so that's good.
Thank you.
I think John wanted to put up a disclaimer that, and I'll just state it, that that As You Sow does not give investment advice. We are a nonprofit, and we everything that we're doing is for educational purposes only.
It's very exciting reading, I know. We are so appreciative of both of you spending your time and sharing with us so much great information. You're two amazing people that I feel so fortunate that we've gotten to get to know this year. And we hope we can, do this again and learn. And there's so much to learn. There's so many places where we can improve. You guys are doing such great work in the world. Really, really appreciate you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, and everyone here also, just for your interest and for being receptive to this kind of message. So thank you.
And everyone have a green holiday.
Yes.
Yes.
Love
No
yourself.
plastic bags.
It's been a treat.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care,
Thank
everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.